Welcome to Financial Talk with Ryan Moore. And today I got co-host with me, Tony Shore. How are you today, Tony? Welcome back.
Oh, yeah, thanks. I've been doing a lot of traveling lately. Had just busy. We were talking beforehand. You've been really busy. You've been too busy to travel, and I've done a little bit of traveling, which can be fun. It's always fun to get away for a little bit. But yeah, thanks for having me on the show today. I've been all over the place: Columbus, Ohio, Chicago. It's just been Nashville for a brief trip to Nashville to see a buddy of mine. And now you're coming up here to Minnesota next week, right?
Yeah, big annual fall conference. Excited about that. And so while I
Good.
head that way, you're actually heading south down to New Orleans, I understand, right?
Yeah, we're gonna miss each other. We're gonna probably pass each other in the air. I'm going to New Orleans, yeah, to do some work, radio, and work on a show down there, and a studio set up for someone. So I'll be down there for a few days, but it's fun to travel. So how have you been though? Everything going good there?
Yeah, we're good. Just jamming along and just balancing the business life and the personal life with all the kids and their sports and everything. But
Oh yeah.
it's been fun. Just it's helpful when they get back into school and get a little bit more of a routine and structure. I'm a big routine guy. I know my wife is too. So
Yeah.
that's been beneficial. But everybody's on a good track. So we're happy, thankful, and blessed.
Yeah, well, that's great. And it is, believe me, my wife and I have raised three kids. And when they go back to school, it's great because there is more structure and you know where they're going to be at a certain time. And they have things to do. That really helps parents, that structure, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you'll have to be taking advantage of some of that food down there in New Orleans, I bet, huh?
Oh, that's what I do when I'm down there. All I do is eat when I'm down there. It's so good. A shrimp po' boy and the best eggs Benedict ever at a place called the Ruby Slipper. If you ever go,
Okay.
best breakfast ever that I've ever had anywhere. So,
Got the
and
crawfish boil and
oh yeah, yep.
are you a spicy guy there, Tony? You like it all hot and spicy?
I do. I like the spice,
There
and
you go.
so I go for it down there. The Cajun, they have a lot of Cajun seasoning down there in New Orleans. I love it. I
Yeah, I can
absolutely
only
love it.
take so much spice, but my wife, she's like the more the merrier for her. So
I'm the same way. I am honestly the same way. So, what are we talking about today? Probably one of the more important topics. You get a lot of questions about this one, right? Social
yeah, so
Security.
we're gonna double back on the Social Security topic and address some of those questions, thoughts, and considerations.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, a lot of people have a lot of questions about Social Security. Will it be here? Those types of things. So I'm anxious to get into it. It's probably the foundation for most people of retirement planning, right?
Yeah, and I think statistically they say that Social Security can represent as much as of about 30 to 40% of one's retirement income. So certainly it's a big puzzle piece is what I call it
Sure.
as far as the whole puzzle goes, and certainly a lot to consider there. But let's start with just a few basics here, Tony, okay? So
Okay.
we'll touch on the history of Social Security to begin with. So Social Security came about during the Franklin Roosevelt administration back in 1935. Interestingly enough, it was back then called the Old Age Survivors and Disability Program.
Huh.
And so it wasn't really intended to, take shape the way that it is nowadays. In fact, back then in 1935, life expectancy was up to age 63. In the earliest you could
Yeah.
turn on Social Security was 65. So
Right.
for,
That's why I laugh because it's like, well, they weren't paying out a lot then, were they?
right, I don't think it was designed to be a pension program for every qualified, US citizen. And now
Sure.
you think about, where we are today, life expectancy for a 65-year-old female is at about age 85 and a life expectancy for a 65-year-old male is at about age 83, but yet the earliest you can turn on Social Security is 62. So quite a bit different than it used to be. And the
Yeah.
other thing, because I know one of the bigger concerns for folks is Social Security going to be there? Because I think
Yeah.
it's common knowledge that this particular entitlement program is under some strain and duress. A large part of that is we have an aging population, the baby boomer generation. Right now, there are 10,000 Americans that turn 65 every day in this country. And when you think about that, if they're no longer working, they're not paying into the system, essentially they're taking out of the system. And so
Right.
that's where we have some additional strain as it relates to the program.
Well, yeah, and a lot of people are worried. They say, "Oh, Social Security won't be there for me when I need it." I'm worried about that. But the way I see it, Ryan, is we've come to this point in the past. They've done things to help extend it, help the trust fund grow more, and there are some changes they can make to fix it. Right? I mean, they probably will. Correct?
Yeah, ideally, but I think that's been a topic for quite a few years now. So,
True.
one thing that I try to really convey to folks, okay, and I teach on this topic. I do these educational workshops, and we do them in higher education facilities and etc. That being said, I try to always make this point, which is, you don't want to make a decision out of fear. It's never good to make decisions out of emotion, but the thought is, well, I'm going to turn it on as soon as I can because I want to try to get these resources while they're still there. But that can create some unintended consequences. So let me elaborate a little bit. So
Okay.
right now, I think most projections would say that the trust fund is at risk of being depleted by 2033, at which point it may only pay 77 cents on every benefit dollar. So it's not saying that it's going away. It's just saying that there's a good potential, if it doesn't get corrected, that it would reduce the benefits. So let's, again, continuing on some of the basics here. So the earliest you can turn on Social Security is age 62. And if you turn it on at 62, you're essentially getting 75% of your benefit amount. If you wait till full retirement age, so right now, if anyone was born 1960 or later, full retirement age is age 67. That's the latest full retirement age that's out there. So that full retirement age would pay 100% of your benefit amount. And then the latest possible age that you can delay to is age 70, in which case it's going to pay 132% of your benefit amount. So every year you wait from 62 and potentially all the way up till 70, your benefit base is growing by 8% a year, plus whatever the cost of living adjustment is that gets assigned due to the consumer price index. So the point that I'm trying to make is if you make a decision out of fear and you turn it on as early as possible at age 62, then essentially you're choosing to take a reduced benefit by getting 75% of your benefit amount. And therefore, if they do have to reduce Social Security benefits because of trust fund depletion, then essentially you're going to get another reduction. So you're basically getting a reduced benefit upon a reduced benefit. And so for that reason, I caution people not to make a decision, out of fear or emotion.
Right. And you know what? It's funny you should mention that because one of my wife's best friends, they just got together to go out on a hike, or they went out to this park together over the weekend. They hadn't seen each other in a while. And she told my wife, with Social Security, you need to file at 62 because you want to get as much as you can. It's not going to be there. So that's why exactly what you just said.
Yeah, I hear it a
That's
lot.
what, yeah. And so people really think that, and I've tried to tell people, and my wife tried to tell her, well, they'll probably do something to shore it up. There's like 4 options that are pretty simple. They just have to do to, they'll extend the full retirement age, or they'll take more out of everybody's paycheck to fill the shortfall, or they'll take off the cap on how much of your income can be taxed with Social Security. Right now, it's like everybody who makes more than $175,000, they don't pay into Social Security on the rest of that income above that. If they change that would that alone could probably do it. But will they do that? Will they make other adjustments? More than likely they will, but they've, like you said, they've kicked the can down the road. Should you be concerned? Yeah, we should be concerned, but not fearful. And boy, locking in at 62 is, if you're going to continue to work, especially, then you're in a real trouble, right? I knew a guy, my next door neighbor, filed at 62, but he worked full time until he was 70.
Wow.
So it doesn't make any sense, right?
No, and there's more to the story, and I want to touch on that, which is, so there's a lot of moving parts to this, and it's important to really understand it. That being said, if you turn on Social Security before full retirement age, so anywhere between 62 and potentially 67, there's an income limit. So if you make this decision and you're still working, now you're even face some other issues. Okay. So the income limit in 2025, the year we're in, is $23,400. And what that's saying is, if you turn on your benefits before full retirement age and you make over, because you're still working, 23,400, your benefits will be reduced by $1 for every $2 you make that is above the 23,400.
Wow.
So essentially you're going to get a reduced benefit for that reason.
And that's a low bar. I mean, most part-time jobs pay more than that, even part-time, right?
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. So that's a big consideration as well. And that's one thing I'm always mindful of, is when people are having that conversation with me about turning it on, and they might even be looking to retire before full retirement age, but that when they start to say, well, I might look to keep a part-time job or, do something else, then my next question is going to be, okay, when we're talking part-time work, what amount do you think we're talking about? Are we talking about $1,000 a month or a couple thousand or more a month, which now you're creeping over that income limit, and there needs to be some more consideration to that decision.
Sure. And filing at 62 could have implications for your spouse. It could have long-term implications if you live to 85. I just feel all these people are going to file at 62, and then they're going to pass legislation that will fix Social Security for another 30 years or plus. And then they're going to go through retirement, greatly with greatly reduced income because of that fear. They acted out of fear, not out of, okay, what's probably really going to happen, right?
Sure. So there is in the Social Security rules, there is a mulligan rule for you golfers out there, which is a do-over opportunity. Essentially what that looks like is, if you turn on your benefit, and let's say then you go listen to a podcast like mine or come see a workshop and you realize, whoops, I wish I hadn't done that. Well, you can unwind it if it's still within the first year that you turned it on. And that's the do-over reset rule, which essentially you would have to pay back any benefits you've already collected. And it has to be within the year that you're doing it. And I believe it's Form 529. That is that form that you have to file. So that being the case, there is an opportunity for those that might have gone down that path and then, get enlightened within 1 year and have the ability to unwind it in reverse course.
Yeah. But really, once you lock in, you're locked in with that exception, right? And that's not always the easiest, because you have to pay back everything that's been paid out to you. But at least there is that one option. It has to be done within the year, right? Within the
Correct.
12 months. Yeah.
There's that option. There's also the restart option, which is a little different. That one goes like this. If you're at a full retirement age or older, all right, and let's say you retire, so you turn on your benefit, and I see this happen with quite a few folks over the years, where they're very valuable to the company and they go retire, and that company realizes, wow, we really can't do without this person. So we're going to try to go rope them back in, and ultimately maybe make them an offer they can't refuse to come back to work because we need them so much. So in that case, there is the opportunity where you can actually suspend your benefits, and they will continue to accrue the additional growth on the benefits up till age 70. And then you can restart it at a later time. So that's if you're at full retirement age or older. And that's where you've started it, then you can stop it and then restart it again.
Okay.
So that's another option for that type of scenario.
Interesting. I did not know that. That's good to know. And it seems like you're very knowledgeable about Social Security. Of course, you've been doing financial planning and retirement income planning specifically for a long time. And I know you do educational workshops for people on this topic, how to maximize their Social Security. And you have a report you can run for people. How can our listeners out there get a hold of you to get more information or find out about one of these seminars?
Sure. So, I mean, you can check out our website, which is rsgtn.com, as in Retirement Solutions Group Tennessee, or you could just email us at info@rsgtn, or also give us a call. And our direct number is 615-467-6300. So with that, Tony, yes, we use a software program. It's called the Social Security Maximization Report. And ultimately, I don't believe it's as easy as just, do I want to turn it on at 62, 67, or full retirement? Because you can turn it on at any age in between all of that. And I think the job of an advisor should be to really analyze each individual situation, timing, circumstances, what their objectives are, and ultimately try to find the sweet spot for the timing to activate the benefits. So when we run that report, okay, and by the way, there are literally 81 age combinations when it comes to multiple claiming strategies, 81 age combinations and
Wow.
567 different sets of calculations, right? So it's not really something that you want to try to compute manually.
You can't use the old coffee shop napkin. This isn't napkin math where you just
That's
get the
right.
napkin out and do it in your head. Even with a calculator and a slide rule, you'd have a problem. That's proprietary software that does thousands of calculations, and the main 500 plus you talked about, along with all the other combinations, I think it's like 20,000 possible outcomes and calculations.
Sure. So we
Yeah.
use advanced software, we plug it in, okay, and then ultimately, especially, I think this is extremely important when it's in a spousal situation, because there's a lot of different approaches when it comes to married couples and how to file and how to get the most out of the benefits. And so when we run that report, we don't just necessarily go with whatever it says. In fact, many times it's going to recommend that people delay till age 70, because the average life expectancy right now for 65-year-old folks, and I mentioned this earlier, is around 85 and 83. If you turn on Social Security at 70, then a common question is, well, how many years will I have to get that level of benefit to make back all the income that I could have been making? And that is what's called the break-even point. The break-even point when you delay all the way to 70 is typically going to land at around age 79 or 80. So naturally, if life expectancies for an individual is beyond 79 or 80, then the system is just going to recommend delay as long as possible to age 70. Well, it's good. I want to get the data. I want to see what it's telling us, but I'm not necessarily just jumping at it. So let's look at this scenario real quick. Let's say that you got a 65-year-old couple that is retiring at 65, and the system or the software is saying delay till 70. So that would be 5 years that they would be already in retirement without taking their Social Security benefit. So if they're not getting income resources from that Social Security bucket, then where are they going to have to rely on it from? They're going to have to lean on their nest egg even more than they would have if Social Security was pairing with their nest egg to meet their income goal, right? So let's just say combine the couples making $50,000 a year in Social Security benefits, and you delay, right? And I'm just using easy math here, for 5 years, that would be $250,000 that they would not get from Social Security benefits, that they're going to have to lean on their nest egg. And then let's say that hypothetically, God forbid, one of these folks passes away unexpected in their early 70s. So the survivorship rule for Social Security and for spouses is you keep the greater of the two benefits. You lose the lesser of the two. So in an example like that, where somebody passes away prematurely in their early 70s, the survivor would be left with one Social Security benefit and a significantly depleted nest egg, by choosing to delay. So what we want to do is we look at the whole puzzle, okay? And we look at Social Security as not a mutually exclusive puzzle piece. We need to make sure that that puzzle piece is going to fit with all of the other puzzle pieces and ultimately try to find the sweet spot. And that's where all the planning and, analysis comes in.
Yeah, because a mistake with your Social Security can be very costly. I mean, for some, it could make or break your retirement, right? I mean, it does account for, like you said, some people as much as 30 or 40% of their retirement income. But regardless of how much or how little you have, it is a solid foundation, even if you have a lot saved for retirement, millions of dollars. Social Security, you want to maximize it and get the most out of it. You paid into it. And a lot of people really rely on it. So you want to make sure you're doing the right thing. And I wouldn't want to make a decision. Do not file for Social Security without, giving yourself a call. You want to work with a trusted financial services professional on this, because the difference is thousands of dollars. In some cases, it could be over $100,000, depending on when you file and your personal situation, right?
Yeah, and absolutely. And there's a couple other things to touch on with that, which is again in a spousal situation, many are not totally clued into how one spouse who might not have even had the working history to qualify still is eligible for a spousal benefit. Right. So that's the other
Right.
thing, is looking at the age combination in terms of how you're getting the most out of your lifetime benefits as a married couple. So a spousal benefit could potentially equate to as much as half of the working spouse's benefit amount. Or if they were both working, but one was a much higher wage earner, right, who has a much higher qualified benefit, if their benefit is more than twice of the other spouses who might have still worked, then the other spouse may not even take their own benefit. They would just take half of the higher wage earning spouses. So that's also part of where that software comes in to help us evaluate. Now, one thing that I get a little disappointed about, quite honestly, in our industry is that there are not a lot of advisors that have taken time in their career to really learn and understand Social Security to be of value to their clients. So Tony, when I do my Social Security workshops, I will fill the room. I might have 40, 50 people.
Yep.
And I know that the vast majority of people in there have representation. They have somebody that they might work with that helps them with their investing. And when they ask about Social Security, the common answer is, oh, well, we don't really help with that. So it forces people to have to go out on their own, try to learn it themselves, come sit with a guy like me, right? But however, they all put themselves out there as fiduciaries. So if you're a fiduciary, you're legally obligated to put your client's best interest first, but yet you're not even providing any guidance on the piece of their puzzle that represents 30 to 40% of their income. I
Yeah.
mean, help me out here,
Crazy.
right?
Yeah, that's crazy. And so to be a true fiduciary, you have to be able to look at everything. You have to be able to look at taxes, inflation, Social Security, Medicare. I mean, really
Right.
look at the big picture and how everything's, and it all has to fit together like puzzle pieces. So you don't want to do it on your own. And my concern is nowadays a lot of people will they'll go on YouTube and look for a video, right? And or even worse, they'll go on a social media platform and look at a 5-minute video on how to maximize your social and or Social Security. And I see a lot of these online. I've been sent them. I run across them in research, and so many people say you got to file when you're 62. Or I watched another one the other day that said you have to wait till your full retirement age. You never file at 62. And the reality is everybody's situation is different. There isn't a one size fits all. You want to try to find the sweet spot, but if you have health issues or you absolutely cannot work and you need the money, you may have to file in one of those instances at 62. But so many people file at 62 because they think I'm going to get more checks now. But really the break even point is 80, 85, and their family longevity is 95 or 100. So, especially the in a couple, the women live longer typically.
That's right.
And nowadays, a lot of women live way past 80. I mean, it's just I see that a lot with my parents being in nursing homes, and I saw it with my grandparents. They can live a long, long time. People can. So my grandfather lived to 101,
Wow.
and my grandmother lived into her 90s on both sides. It's so longevity is getting. We're living longer. The good news is, Ryan, we're living longer. The bad news is we're living longer.
Right. We're not always living better. Right.
But you need more money the longer you live. So that's where you come in, right?
Sure. Yeah. And I think it's just about, the way we view it is just providing specialized, customized attention that really drills down to each individual's set of circumstances. And we, collaborate with folks. It's not about telling them what to do. It's about empowering them to make intelligent decisions and getting on the same page with what makes sense in their set of circumstances.
So, Ryan, once again, how can our listeners then get a hold of you to figure out how this works? They need to know how it works and get these things in order and get that report run.
Absolutely. So just give us a call, area code 615-467-6300, or you can also email us at info@rsgtn.com.
All right. Well, Ryan, great show today. Social Security is a really important topic. I hope our listeners out there will give you a call, have that report run, or attend one of your workshops, right?
Absolutely. Thank you, Tony.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan. And listeners and viewers, thanks for tuning in. That does it for today's episode of More Financial Talk with our host, Ryan Moore.